people need to set one up. It really is kind of the ultimate backlink, or the ultimate, open for business online kind of sign. So for that graphic designer avatar that we brought up, they should make sure they initiate a Google business profile, knowing that their location is, they probably do their work from their home, or potentially from, some kind of office suite or something. They should think about what they would like their pin to be. It could definitely be their home. My pin's on my home right now, and go ahead and get that Google business profile and get going.
Welcome to Gratitude Geek, the relationship marketing podcast helping DIY marketers attract raving fans and repeat buyers. I'm your host, Candice Ridardi, and this week I'm joined by do-it-yourself search engine optimization expert, Jeremy Poland. Jeremy is a seasoned marketer with a backstory in church leadership and publishing. Struggling to support a growing family on one nonprofit salary, he erected a digital agency from side hustle to family sustainer. With a specialization in SEO for small businesses, the proprietary playbook and data he developed led to the formation of DIY SEO. Tell us your unique story. How'd you get to where you are?
So, yes, I'm a dad of 8 children, and my wife and I have had them all biologically single births.
Are you insane?
Yeah, it's a little bit wild. And we both were working at church for a number of years, and greatly enjoyed what we did, and felt called and all those things. I ended up enjoying writing and discovering the independent publishing route, and quickly realized that that I really had to shoulder the burden to market the book all on my own when you independently published. So I discovered WordPress and blogging, and really sort of fell into the wormhole of online marketing, all the way back to realizing you can make a few cents by plugging in Google AdSense code on your website, and just learning and going from there, learning about selling ebooks and podcasting as that sort of was arriving around that time. And eventually gained a few small local business clients, did website work, graphic design, SEO type of work for them, and then grew into a specialization with SEO, and essentially created my own recipe or system for quote unquote doing SEO for businesses. And now I'm licensing and selling out the system, the DIY SEO system. So that's where I am now.
Licensing the system. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, so when I started doing SEO, I realized that this was a field that, first of all, I knew nothing formally. I had reached a level of proficiency with WordPress, website designing, blogging. I was a writer, so I was doing some content production, so on and so forth. And then people were saying, can you help us rank higher and do SEO? And I knew enough and was bold enough to just say, sure, I'll do that, charged a reasonable rate because I was a rookie, and began diving in. And so the first thing I did, if I'm working for a plumbing company, I was looking at who was ranking ahead of them, and reverse engineering why. And what I quickly realized was the big part of the puzzle was the domain authority of the stronger website. It had a lot more backlinks pointing to it. And so I started looking at how they obtain those backlinks, and working through that process, helping my client get those same or similar backlinks, and eventually ended up cataloging backlink opportunities, realizing that this is the bulk of the SEO problem for new startup small business entities, the main folks who are saying, or hiring SEO help, if you will, with small to medium budgets. And so I realized that by creating this big backlink catalog, organizing it, curating it, developing what I call special plays, I could quickly, quote unquote, do SEO for clients. I'm not intentionally omitting on-site SEO, but what I'm doing is I'm focusing on the bigger part of the puzzle. It is fascinating to work on our page speed, Make sure it's important to make sure our images load fast. We have most builders are now mobile responsive by default. That used to be a problem 3-4 years ago. Many people didn't have SSL certificates. Now we all have an SSL certificate, et cetera, et cetera. So the bulk of the challenge is the backlink collection, the backlink network for the majority of small business owners. Yes, content plays a role, but I find that many small business folks, and I'm maybe lasering in mostly on home service, local service type entities when I speak, but they're not in the content building business. They're not, they typically only have 3, 4, 5, maybe up to 10 pages. And truthfully, only three or four of those matter. They probably have the same type of content as their competitors. So ultimately, what's boiling down to is who has the strongest domain authority. That's based upon the age of the domain, and it's also largely based on the number of and quality of backlinks. And when it comes to the map, certainly the Google review tally factors in heavily as well. So my system is heavy on helping people quickly and rapidly build real, meaningful backlinks, avoiding like paying for automation or hiring someone on Fiverr for $10 to like build a bunch of like spammy Web 2.0 links, but helping people find and quickly and rapidly acquire, medium to high value backlinks that will really change the game. So they can quickly go from ranking number 10 for carpet cleaning in their area and rank number 3. So
okay, so you use this word backlink a lot, and people listening to this may not even know what that means. So very basically, what is a backlink?
Okay, so backlinking is a route, a link, or a portal. In the slightly more technical sense, it's a hyperlink from one website to another. So think of backlinks or hyperlinks creating this massive network of relationships from one website to another, from websites to hundreds of other websites. And Google indexes these networks or paths, and it helps Google catalog and tabulate what websites what sort of orbit or niche different websites are operating in, and then which ones are better, essentially superior or more authoritative than others. And so if we're developing a search engine, we've got to figure out a way to sort of sort through, and backlinks are a major tool for Google to decipher which websites matter. Because if 10 of us are writing the exact same post about cactus gardening, Google has to make a ranking decision. Uses an algorithm to make an instantaneous ranking decision and order those 10 posts. And one of the factor would be who has the most backlinks, and it would just descend from there since the content was exactly the same.
So what is a good backlink, and I've been doing this a long time. I don't know. I think I mentioned earlier that I've had my website since 1999. So
yeah, that is a long time.
So this whole backlinking thing has changed. And it used to be that you could just put your website on a whole bunch of directories and that would be backlinks.
Sure.
But that's not necessarily true anymore, is it?
I would say that is true to a degree. And then there are, other avenues. So yes, directories are huge. There's a slight bit of confusion in that there's a term or a quadrant of directories called citations. Those are a little bit more like a phone book or phone listing. Sometimes they don't include the web address, but they've got phone number and address for a business and so on. Many of those are low value in the overall scheme. But consider a directory like on a major newspaper website. It might be, the Seattle Times business directory. That would be really valuable because it's from, I know I botched the newspaper name, but from the Seattle newspaper. That is huge. So the different backlinks the way backlinks are valued, essentially, or tabulated, is where they're coming from and who they are. Almost just like in a human relationship, if someone who's an knows everything about restaurants in Seattle, and they give a review, and you know this person's very well versed in all the restaurants in their city. I mean, you're going to think, wow, okay. I mean, they're telling me to go to this restaurant. That would mean a lot, versus like a fellow traveler on the airplane who's like, hey, I heard this restaurant is good. Like, well, okay.
I don't know. I kind of like it when locals tell me where to eat when I'm on an airplane.
Well,
Okay, so
I'm in a person who like really hasn't even been there either. They're just like, I just opened the magazine and I saw this ad. I guess that's what I mean. But yeah, local. I love when like a local. That's what Google's looking for. They're looking for that deeper knowledge, and point being, higher value websites. If they mention your company, if they mention your brand, those are massive points. And at the top of the scale are things like universities, government institutions, large scale media publications. That's sort of the holy triad of SEO. So in my system, I have some legitimate systems to get multiple, or many backlinks at scale from some of those types of entities, because you're doing something or providing something that's of interest to them. And so, for example, one play is the scholarship. You offer a scholarship that's fairly broad in scope. It's of course a real scholarship that you're intending on fulfilling and giving away. And then you share that scholarship opportunity, which is linked, or sorry, which is based on a particular page on your website, yourwebsite.com/scholarship. That's then shared with a huge array of educational institutions, and a certain percentage of them are going to list it on certain pages. So all of a sudden, illinoistech.edu is placing a link to to Tina's accountancy.com. So
what an interesting, that is the first time I've ever heard offering a scholarship as an SEO strategy.
okay, yeah, it's a fairly well-known kind of higher end like approach. It's probably it was out of reach, I think, for a lot of people. That's what I'm bringing it, in a
I
sense.
don't know. I got a lot of $500 scholarships when I graduated from high school.
Okay, I know. No,
Yeah.
you're right. That means a lot. I guess I just meant it felt out of reach as an SEO strategy. I think for a lot of smaller folks, it's something that bigger entities were doing, because they had to essentially harness the contact data. They
Yeah.
had to sort of scour the web, figure out, or their fancy agency had some of this in their in their knowledge warehouse. What I've done with DIY SEO is I've done that at scale. I've followed the footpaths of some bigger players. They did the scholarship play. They figured out which universities have these pages that list external scholarships, et cetera, et cetera. I've curated that data in, so a tinasaccountancy.com can offer a $3,000, $2,000 scholarship, and then get 20 backlinks because they send out 100 emails, and those 20.edu back, I mean, they're going to leapfrog their reasonable competitors, because they're not doing that. So
you're in Houston, and I used to live in Houston, and everybody goes to A&M. So
that's where I went. Oh my goodness. Wow.
So
you really do know this area.
I lived there for 20 years.
Yes,
So
okay.
this is the first time I've ever heard of this idea. Now my brain is like on fire. So
wow, that's good. That means I'm excited.
The plumber,
yeah,
Joe Plumbing, went to A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, it's his alma mater. He loves this, he has the A&M, banner on his front lawn. Everybody knows he went to A&M. He's a plumber. He could create a scholarship program for people. Actually, this would work better for a veterinarian, because A&M is well known for the veterinarian program.
Yeah,
okay, the veterinarian loves A&M. He could create a $1,000 scholarship for future veterinarians going to A&M.
Yes.
And A&M would be all over that.
Yes, they would. He would probably have a strong chance of getting a backlink. He would have to identify where, which exact page essentially, or what person to email. That can be a little bit of a maze on a big
But
institutional
your
website.
software probably already has that information.
It definitely might have that. I would definitely encourage being a little bit broader. He's a veterinarian and he cares about, but he would probably just make a like science or STEM-ish type of scholarship so that he could get more PR
Well, yeah, and it would
connections from
probably
that.
be to any school in Texas,
Exactly.
or
It'd be to
so that
any school, even in the nation. I mean,
yeah.
or to Polytech or something, and so if the goal is to be broad in that particular
Then
sense,
that
because
would
then you're
create
going to
more
get more
backlinks.
opportunities.
So I always talk about niche, get your niche as small as you possibly can. But in this case, you want the niche to be wide so you can cast a bigger net
Yeah,
for
cast a
the
bigger net, and
backlinks.
yeah, exactly. You got it. So that's
Okay,
one of
so
many special plays.
give me another one because this is fascinating.
Job. So everyone, and I'm actually coaching people now to build these plays, these pages, which correspond to plays, like right when they're building a website. I'm even creating a little theme that's going to have all these pages built in. So yourdomain.com/careers. This applies to everybody because, right, we're all basically hiring for something, at least probably on a part-time basis. So create an ongoing perpetual job position that you're interested in receiving resumes for. This does not obligating you to hire at a certain time or pace or number of candidates, etc. But this is a legitimate opening that are open to having conversations with people about. This career page thing can then obviously be shared in a lot of places because job openings and possibilities and freelancing is very much on the minds of all kinds of websites and media outlets, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've got a job, a backlink, job backlink special play page, and it lists all of these different entities and publications that would like to hear and are likely to list job opportunities. Some of them, focus on certain areas, parts of the country, industries, et cetera, et cetera. But just by sifting through that and then filling out the form or sending an email, you're sharing your career page, and you're bound to get a number of backlinks. And so it's a really easy thing to do. Another one is a podcast, just like this. Anyone can set up a relatively simple podcast using Anchor FM, then get listed on directories. And
Candace
I've got
says,
over.
don't use Anchor FM. Okay, go on.
Okay. Sorry. I just say that because it's uber free for someone who's maybe not truly endeavoring to be a full-fledged podcaster like you are, but may have some audio content. And then they're realizing, hey, we can get backlinks from this. I've got over 100 podcast directory opportunities that someone can just work through. And that alone, like that one play, can again make the difference with Joe's pest control service in Toledo, Ohio. He does, if someone on his team does the podcast play, they're going to be really in good, they're going to be in great shape in their local area.
And you call your strategies plays?
I call these special plays. I also have a monthly, maybe more standard approach, meaning month 1, build these links, month 2, build these links, month 3, this is about 20 to 30. So those are fairly general. The special plays are there for people to maybe go faster, or to accentuate what they're doing with the monthly, and to tap into something that they're already doing, to tap into assets and or aspirations of their company. Like the scholarship might be an aspiration. They haven't done it before. Maybe they thought about it. They feel like giving some money away, doing something good. They can also get a legitimate PR SEO benefit. Same with, they may have industry publications. I show people how to turn that into an ebook, and then you can build a bunch of backlinks because you're an author, right? I mean, or same with the podcast, or maybe they've got like an award they've won, or there are other ways to kind of play. A lot of people already have the career page. They've got 5 positions they're trying to fill right now, so they can harness that asset and get the PR benefit from that.
Okay, so far you've given us some ideas for companies that may be a little bit bigger. What about a small company like run by a solopreneur? What about like a tree trimmer? Is not a good idea. What would be a solopreneur company with a website?
Like a freelance graphic designer,
Yeah,
or you're
perfect.
thinking of,
Freelance graphic
okay,
designer. Give me a strategy
you
for one
know,
of those.
sure. So they can follow the startup path. I've got a big list of startup backlink opportunities, company that are going to list, publications and websites that are listing startups, new companies. So that's an easy one to go through. They can do the monthly stuff, the business directory kind of stuff. If this is an online, since it's sort of an online-ish business, there are a few things that people can do to, slightly adjust their posture to just look a little bit bigger. I'm not into false pretense, but we're all, to some degree, we have to fake it a tiny bit till we make it right. And so there's a little bit they could, like, for example, having a business address can help. Looking a little bit like maybe there's a physical location. Maybe
Well,
you
okay,
could
so
get a
let's
Google
let
My Bit.
while we're on that subject, Google My Business, which is now Google Business Profile.
Yes,
They no longer require you to have a physical address.
yes, okay, right, true.
So
That is true.
when that happened, it was really cool for me because I work from home
Hmm.
and I serve all of North America. I have clients in Canada and the United States and the Bahamas. So I don't want to limit myself to just being a business coach in Muskegon, Michigan. So when you pull me up on Google My Business or Google Business Profile, it says I'm in North America.
Oh, right. Okay, your
Yeah.
location is broad. Yeah.
So how although you still find me, I mean, it's still pulled up in Muskegon, which is where I live in Muskegon, Michigan.
There's a pin. I could find a pin there if I hovered
Yeah.
over you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So talk to me about Google, because to me, that's like the most important backlink. So talk to me
Right.
about that.
Sure. I mean, Google Business Profile is amazingly important, and it, especially for anyone who's really, really heavily doing business in their local area. Um, it Reviews are a big deal. Google does kind of, like as you describe it, change the name of this, operation overall, and they sometimes change their features. You made the best point. People need to set one up. It really is kind of the ultimate backlink, or the ultimate, you know, open for business online kind of sign. So for that graphic designer avatar that we brought up, they should make sure they initiate a Google Business Profile, knowing that their location is, they probably do their work from their home, or potentially from, some kind of office suite or something. They should think about what they would like their pin to be. It could definitely be their home. My pin's on my home right now, and go ahead and get that Google Business Profile and get going.
Well, and
But
Google Business Profile also has the option that says by appointment only as the address,
Oh,
which
right,
is
that's
nice.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't receive, people don't need to just drive and show up here, and this is not a retail location, and so on.
Yeah.
Yes, they've thought it through pretty well, and it's also not something to try to cheat at. I've met people who will, like, try to set up multiple profiles, when they don't have multiple locations and stuff like that. It's so, um, what was I saying initially? I mean, it's
However, if you
it's
do have multiple locations, you should have multiple profiles.
yes, you should have multiple locations essentially within your Google Business Profile, and Google definitely knows how to handle that. Yes, I worked for a three location medical facility, and each one has its own
I helped a tow truck
profile.
company do that, and what they did was they bought up other tow truck companies, and so
Okay,
every tow truck company that they owned had a different name. So we couldn't do it under one flag. We had to do it as three different profiles or four different
they were three
profiles.
different names, and
Yeah, four different
you
names.
had
Yeah,
probably four different logins essentially
yeah,
to each one, that
yeah.
you were able to take charge of the account and then edit the information to, and point the website where you needed it
Yes.
to, and so on.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, I mean, so that's definitely the important thing. But building the monthly backlinks, doing something like a startup for this person, and then I think doing something like a a podcast kind of play, just because there's so many websites that are interested in podcasts and talking about podcasts and creating directories and lists of podcasts, that it's almost a no-brainer. So this graphic designer individual probably should have a full-fledged podcast anyway, but they could at least get a few audio small episodes out there. Boom, they can
Well,
get those backlinks.
a lot, because I've been podcasting since 2014. Really recently told somebody 2012, so I apologize. It was a lie, not intentional.
Okay.
I just misremembered.
Okay. That
So
is a long time.
I've been podcasting since 2014, and people often ask me, well, how do I start a podcast? And my answer is, don't start a podcast. My answer is, be a
Okay.
guest
Okay.
on other people's podcasts, because it's the same backlink strategy. When the podcaster puts their show notes out, they're going to link to your website. So that is a backlink.
You're right. That is definitely a backlink. I'm getting those right now, and I love that. There are backlinks that are only going to appear, though, if you have your own show, meaning sites that are
The
listing
directories.
shows. And so I guess what I'm saying is the bar to have a show is low, and there obviously are lots and lots of podcasts, sort of, micro, tiny podcasts starting. Many of them dying or just not going anywhere in
number of
particular.
podcasts who have less than 10 episodes is 95% of them.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah,
So I mean, if my ultimate message is, you might fall in love with podcasting and it might become a good business vehicle for you anyway, small business friend or client who I'm, speaking to. It is a very powerful way for a relatively small new business to get a voice out there, get an episode or two. Doesn't have to dazzle anyone with fancy intros or outros.
Yeah.
But then Apple, iTunes, these are
Yeah.
links that you're going to start getting, that your fellow florists in in the Atlanta, Georgia suburbs just aren't going to have. So that's what I'm getting at. I mean, all this whole conversation sort of stems from, I was working for an HVAC company. Their bigger HVAC company basically had 100 to 200 more backlinks. That was what I call the backlink gap. That was the difference in strength.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to figure out a way. They weren't giving me a budget, if that makes sense. They were just paying me a stipend. So I was essentially building, quote unquote, free backlinks. I wasn't able to pay for them, which is sort of the in vogue thing to do for people who have budgets. They hire fancy companies to get them guest blog placements, and you probably get these advertisements. Though that is a legitimate path. I'm just creating I'm basically telling people, if you'll put in a little bit of elbow grease, I'll give you the strategy and the exact sort of action steps. Go to this website, email this person, pay $25, your company's listed.
Yeah.
So instead of paying $150 per guest blog post, and you bought a package of 10, I mean, that is a route. That's for people. I'm saying you got to close that gap. That's and I show people how to get those numbers. Plumbing company number one in the market oftentimes has 200 to 300 referring domains. I'm sorry, I'm going to switch jargon terms a tiny bit. A referring domain is another website that's sending at least one backlink to you. Sometimes that same website may send 10 backlinks. That's awesome. But then the first one mattered the most. So what Google ultimately is looking at is how many other websites, and who are those other websites, are linking to you. And so strong companies are going to have, let's say, about 200 referring domains that matter. I sometimes just cut off the kind of junkiest stuff at the bottom, the weakest, weirdest stuff. So about 200 referring domains that matter. That's a strong local service company backlink, a referring domain total. So the new person might have 5, 10. And what I'm saying is, let's get you a plan to get 20, 30 a month. And then you're kind of solving the strength problem.
Is that a service that you offer, is to find out how many backlinks a company has, a website has? Is it?
That is something that is actually a service or a part of the DIY SEO system. And yes, I have to do that, meaning that because I have a I have the full subscription to Ahrefs. I do that for my members. They also could pay for the full version of Ahrefs.
So
which is about
DIY
$20.
SEO is a membership program.
DIY SEO is a membership program. I call it a system. It's data, meaning it's this library of backlinks. It is training, so it's videos and action steps. Month 1, do this. Month 2, do this. Month 3, do this. It is it includes some firepower that I pay for, like I just mentioned. So in fact, one of the first action steps is download the free tier of Ahrefs, and begin getting some data on your own or company. Ahrefs basically the free tier allows you to get backlink data and keyword ranking data for your own website easily for free. But what you have to pay for with Ahrefs is backlink data on other websites. So my members can come to me and say, hey, can you look up these 3?
What if somebody doesn't know who their competitors are?
Well, good question. Ahrefs, they should have some sense, but Ahrefs and other tools will tell you. Ahrefs with the paid version can tell you. So a member could actually ask me, who are my competitors online, and I could tell them. I mean, it would be so odd though if they didn't have a sense. But
I don't know.
in fact, usually harmonizing those two, the sense that people have. Well, I mean, it's like they should search for their own services occasionally and see what's going on, right? But
I don't
you're
know.
right.
If sometimes you have a niche that is so narrow that you really don't have any competition.
Okay, well then you're going to love my answer. Ahrefs will show you
who's competing for keywords.
Yes, who's competing for the largest number of keywords. They're basically ranking for the most similar keywords to your website, and so when it shows you those, you do get a sense of who those folks are. That's really applicable to like niche folks. I know they're almost like 2 different planes that we're talking about at the same time. There's the local business plane, which is a little different, and then there's the sort of national or international business plane with people offering niche products, services, etc. So the rules and mindsets are a little bit different, and then of course there's overlap for those 2 folks.
But the underlying facts are, the more backlinks you have, the more good backlinks you have, the better.
The better. I mean, that's the bottom line.
On-page SEO is, make sure that you have keywords and that your pictures that your pictures are a good. What's the word I'm looking for? If your pictures are wonky when you resize the screen, then you need to fix that, because that's bad SEO. And I didn't realize how important that was.
Yeah, you're right. Those things can really hurt people. Modern builders are the good news for the relatively new business owner, the startup person who just built a website, or they're using Wix or Square. Those builders have done a lot of the work, and they've evolved so much that this individual probably has a pretty quick loading site. They just uploaded a couple photos of their work. They uploaded their headshot, their logos there in the header. Boom, that website that they're using right now is probably pretty good on site SEO wise. And so there are tools that can quickly give you a score and a read. Okay, this one image is too big. Oh, okay. You can resize that image, come back, bring back the resized version, the compressed version. I mean, there are people. My overall point is that these on-site issues can be solved relatively quickly and rapidly, and at a very low cost. And I do address that. I'm just sort of bringing like the bigger item to the forefront. It's kind of like if you're going to play to have any chance playing in the NFL, you have to be really fast and really strong.
Okay, share your website. We need to wrap up, so share your website.
Sure. My website is diyseo.link, and I'll actually give you your own unique link and go in the show notes. And so I do have I've got a freebie. I've got 20 backlinks that everyone needs. So I've got a webinar that goes into more detail about how
20
all this
backlinks
works.
that everybody needs. That should be an interesting read. So there'll be a link to that in the show notes, people.
Yeah, there'll be a link to that.
And then I want your take on, you know, how people have an Instagram profile and then they've got the link in bio.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on those link in bio services? Those, you know, one
Linktree.
page link tree type things. What do you, is
Yeah.
that a backlinking strategy?
That is a backlinking strategy. Linktree is in my backlink library,
Okay.
meaning that I encourage everyone to set up a Linktree. It's free. That is a backlink strategy.
Because I kind of was thinking, no, I don't want people going to Linktree. I want them going to my website. So
You
having
mean
that
from your Instagram bio?
from my Instagram bio. So I created a Linktree looking thing on my as a landing page on my website. But what you're saying
Well,
is,
that's really clever. I mean, yeah, I'm coming at it from a slightly different angle, but I like you're always creative. I'm basically just saying if someone hasn't even heard of Linktree, maybe they're not even doing Instagram, they ought to set up a Linktree. It's free and list their homepage and potentially a couple of their key service pages. So they're creating links to their fire page and their water page and their air
yeah,
page,
okay,
all on Linktree, and they're getting the value of Linktree's big domain. Linktree is a big and powerful domain. That's not as powerful to Google, so I consider that a medium value. That's not as powerful as illinois.edu linking to your scholarship. That's harder to get, more
yeah,
unique. That's super high value. But these medium items like Linktree, when you're doing that relatively, building these relatively rapidly, these are in my monthly program. Like that might
okay,
be month 3. So
okay.
I'm realizing that the biggest problem is that our smaller, newer friends, smaller meaning online prowess, just don't have enough links. And so let's show them how to get some medium links, and let's show them how to kind of put some balls in play for the big links so that they can catch the competition. And I know a lot of people kind of have like a nemesis online. They're like, if I could just, catch up to, Billy Bob's pest
Stop
control.
comparing yourself to other people.
I know, but that's a benchmark. And then you're like, one day you're like, we outrank Billy Bob's pest control. And there's an emotional aspect. There's a pride and accomplishment. I even have a podcast episode I just did on the emotional aspects of SEO. There's just an interesting emotion. People get overwhelmed by it. They're intimidated by it. They're like distraught because they know they do great things, but there's some other company that actually just doesn't provide the same level of service and customer experience, but they're ranking higher.
Yeah.
So people just really want to figure this
Let's
out.
anytime you accomplish something, you get an endorphin. So SEO as an endorphin. There's a strategy
There you
for you.
go. That's right. Dopamine.
Okay. So aside from SEO, what is your
Yeah.
favorite marketing tool, tip, or technique?
I'm really into software. I might have to say AppSumo because it's broad, but I love AppSumo because it gives you a lot of discounted software marketing tools that you can buy, usually at a lifetime deal. So I'm gonna have to say AppSumo. I probably have purchased 30 to 50 AppSumo deals over time. I also go to Product Hunt very often. At one point, I had that as my Chrome backdrop. So when I, was moving to a new tab, I would see the daily, new product ideas. I found like kind of just seeing new things, new tools, kind of kept me fresh. And
So AppSumo is a place where you can purchase apps at a discount, and they have daily deals. Is that? And then
yeah,
Product Hunt is the same
monthly
thing,
deals.
but from products for products.
Yeah, Product Hunt is AppSumo is a marketplace for sure for purchasing. Product Hunt is more of a publication, less of a marketplace. I mean, so they're not
Okay.
charging you. Does that makes sense? So a lot of
Okay.
the stuff on Product Hunt is new, very new, low stage, early stage. You can obviously get a lot of things you can use for free. Some will lead you to pay. AppSumo is like, hey, for $50, you can buy this new graphic design tool lifetime. So if it
Oh,
becomes, you can see how cool it is now, and they'll even tell you this is where we're planning to go. So it could become the coolest graphic design tool that you could
yeah.
ever imagine,
And you're kind
and
of
you
beta
bought it for
testing it then.
$50. You're a little bit beta testing. They would describe it as a little bit more sophisticated than that. Let's say 60 to 70% of the tools live on and do flourish.
Yeah.
30%, sunset. And so, you're minorly investing. And but these $50, sometimes I'll buy something for like $200, but that they'll allow me to have unlimited users. So I can actually buy a tool that does like SEO scans, on-site SEO scanning and tools and reporting, and then all my members can use it. I pay $200. I've got an unlimited package. Someone can come, they're part of DIY SEO. They don't need to open up a new subscription just for themselves to do some tools. They can, use my access, get the report they need one time, fix the 2 images that were too big, check those boxes, and kind of move on to the bigger game, which we've been talking about, the backlink building. Just that's a lot of people just start with the small stuff, and they're like talking about it indefinitely. Like, I'm working on my alt tags. I mean, you were even talking about your headline. I mean, those are cool. And actually, that's probably the most important part of on-page SEO is the content, optimizing content, URLs, keywords. URLs really do matter. Like yourdomain.com /
whatever you put after that.
Yes, because Google wants that. And a lot of times people say, well, we sell this, but why don't we rank for this? And I'll say, do you have an exact page for that? Well, no, we just mentioned it on the homepage once.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's get an exact page that says fancy rubber, niblets.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're
that's an SEO strategy. I don't know if I told you, my husband and I had a custom furniture business. Well, we still have it.
Okay.
So I did black cannonball bed, cherry cannonball bed. So all of these different, they all have their own name. And so this morning I said, I'm interviewing a guy who does DIY SEO. And he goes, I have no idea what that is. I looked at him and said, it's the reason why we sold so much furniture.
Wow.
No, we still have the business, but it's very small. He only takes a couple of commissions a year, and he charges a lot of money for them. So, but back in the day, we had 6 employees up in New Waverly, Texas, where you should know where that is.
Yes,
and we were doing, we were pushing out, 3 orders a week.
Wow.
3 custom furniture orders a week. And at that point, I was SEOing the heck out of that website.
So, oh my goodness. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. So
cool. So I know a little bit about SEO, but I know things change, and they have changed.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one more question, and that's YouTube videos as an SEO strategy.
I think they're fantastic because YouTube's a Google product. Use it. Anytime you make a video, you actually already have a audio podcast episode. And so I actually have a system where I make about a 10-minute video. To me, that's an episode that can go to YouTube. Obviously, I quickly pull down the MP3 audio. Boom, that's podcast. Load in my intros. Guess what? Then you transcribe the audio. Now you've got the majority of a blog post, and you can then extract social images, clips. So totally. I mean, I think people should come up with a what I call a content, rhythm or cycle that works for them, knowing that they can repurpose. Start with video because you got your face. You've definitely got the audio. Then the audio becomes text. You could pay for the help you need. Someone can refine your blog post, etc. Get public, but not hard.
But what you just talked about, using YouTube for SEO, you can't really do that from TikTok, right?
No, good question. I mean, I don't
use TikTok because I don't want this Chinese government to have my information. Sorry if it sounds like a conspiracy theory. I will not have a TikTok account, period. I don't care if it sounds like I'm a conspiracy theorist.
It is definitely not a conspiracy theory. We know they're harvesting all kinds of data. I guess the question is just simply, what are they doing with it? And is there harm to come from it?
Yeah.
And major American universities are shutting down TikTok. But back to Google, it's the second biggest YouTube. It's the second biggest search engine in the world. So
and it's owned by Google.
It's owned by Google, so it's very highly related to the regular search engine. So why not have some material there and know that it can be played out in a number of ways, which I think is a big part of what I'm trying to say is, since you made that 10-minute video talking about something in particular, now have that as a podcast episode that will be picked up by other podcast related sites and aggregators, and you'd just be amazed how
Yeah.
big that snowball can get as you get going.
Just keep
So video,
reusing,
yeah, keep
reusing
reusing, and then so
on different
yeah, knowing that,
platforms.
yeah, like people are going to be doing voice searches, right? Like you might have said something really interesting in one random episode. Someone may just show up at episode 17 where you talked about, artistic designs on websites, and then, you just answered a very precise question right there. And so Google's going to have all of this be searchable, and
When is that? When
loves
are
the voice.
voice searches going to be something that you can that are
It almost
reliable?
seemed like they were going to be like the biggest thing like 2 years ago, right? With all the echo devices and stuff like that, it's kind of seems like it just hasn't proceeded and maybe as fast as it looked like it was going to proceed. But
Yeah.
I can tell you
Well,
that
you open
people
up a
are going
whole
to
can of
be,
worms there.
it's coming. I mean, so like if someone's making any kind of content, and I know a lot of people sort of hate writing, and there's obviously a writing is a big topic right now. But the bottom line is a lot of people can talk about what they know about, and if they'll use their voice, they can get the video, they've got the audio, and then their audio can much more easily become text, rather than them like sitting at the keyboard typing about it. So that's what I've done actually with some of my clients. We talked for 30 minutes, recorded interview, transcribed, 6,000 words, cut it down to 3,500. If you really can have kind of like a masterpiece where I was essentially asking them questions about what they do. How long does it take? What does it cost? What happens when this happens? Or, what just, and we got an amazing like stream monster blog post out of that conversation. So,
Yeah.
and you could do that yourself. That's actually what I did before we're doing this episode. I did a 10-minute episode. I talked about some bullet points that I'd come up with just myself. That's video, audio, blog post.
This is going to open another whole can of worms, and we probably shouldn't even go down this track. But with Chat GPT, you don't even have to write your own content anymore.
I know, it's getting crazy. I've been still just my one sentence response would be the human aspect is always going to be needed and necessary. Well,
Yeah.
always, at least a few more years into the future, the human aspect is really going to matter, and Google will decipher between purely machine driven material. It wants the little quirks, it wants the little exclamations of the female bloggers, it wants the ahas and the ooh and the in the unique stats. And my friend Suzanne said this, and when it sees that,
so
like
I got to be perfectly honest with you. I recently rewrote the intro and the outro to the show using ChatGPT. So what I did was I put in my old intro and I said, please rewrite this for conciseness. Nice. And same thing with my outro. And I really liked what it gave me.
Oh my goodness.
I made two tweaks. One tweak to the intro and one tweak to the outro. So ChatGPT does have some value. Now, right now, it's down for me. At least for me, I can't get into it anymore.
It's too crowded. Yes.
Yeah. So I've been using Canva Magic Write, which is just as effective and just as groovy. And it's Canva.
That's good to know. Yeah.
Yes, and it's not like down. Canva. Yeah.
But I haven't tried the Magic Write. It is
in the document. So you create a document and then you can do a Magic Write from the document. And I literally I took something and I said, please rewrite the following for brevity or something like that. And I put in a long ass, pardon my French, put in a long paragraph and it rewrote it. And it took a really long paragraph and made it 2 sentences. So Canva Magic Write works just as well as ChatGPT.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. And there'll be a link to Canva Magic Write in the show notes. And Canva is one of the ways that this podcast gets paid for. So please use my referral link.
Nice. Okay.
All right. Okay. So this is my last question. It's your moment of gratitude. For whom or what are you most grateful?
Thank you. Well, I am a Christian. I'm most grateful to, my Lord, and thankful for life itself. And I am very thankful for my family. I have a wife and 8 children, and we have a fair amount of struggle, but we also have a lot of a lot of joy and a lot of fun. So that's what I'm most grateful for.
Thanks for tuning in to Gratitude Geek, where we help DIY marketers attract raving fans and repeat buyers. Don't forget to check out the show notes at gratitudegeek.com for links to all the resources mentioned in this episode. If you enjoyed it, please leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Our theme music is by Rev Brock and Soul Lily. I'm Candice Rodarty, reminding you that gratitude is like manure. It's just a pile of poo until you spread it around. Stay groovy, my friends.
Stay groovy, my friends.